Hi everyone, welcome back to this series of videos on Ind AS, that is Ind AS with Accountsman. In today's lecture, we'll be discussing Ind AS 36, which deals with impairment. So let's get started. Ind AS 36 dealing with impairment of assets. Like we do with every other standard, I'll ask you these questions as to what, why, when and how, and we'll try to figure out and then find the answers for each of these questions as to what, why, when and how. As we try to figure out what, when, why and how, we'll eventually understand the objectives of the standard, the coverage of the standard, the scope of the standard, recognition, measurement, presentation, and then the disclosure requirements also with respect to the standard, and that's how we complete the entire standard. So let's get started, and let's start with the first question on this standard, that is what. So what exactly do we mean by impairment of assets? So the name itself says it is impairment of assets. So going by the word impairment, the dictionary meaning is weakened, or we can say damaged. That's the grammatical meaning of the word impairment. When you say something is impaired, it means that it is weakened or it is damaged. Its utility has come down, its value has come down. So that is what we mean by impairment. Now the next context is with respect to assets. Assets is not something new. We've discussed this several other times in the Ind AS series till now. So what do we mean by an asset? Asset is an item which has, asset is a resource. Okay, I will not call it item. Asset is a resource on which entity has control. So you should be able to control it. You get that? It is not necessary that you have ownership. You get that? When we'll discuss Ind AS 116 with regard to leases, that is our old Ind AS 17, I'll tell you there that right to use the asset is also an asset. So you might not own the asset, you have right to use it. So that's still an asset. You'll record it in your balance sheet as an asset. Yeah. So it is about having the entity having the right to control and not having the ownership. Asset need not be owned. Asset should be the thing on which we have control. So it should be a resource, and it is like entity has the control over it. Further, two important points. Number one, it is called as an asset because it arises from a past event, and it is called as an asset because it will give us future economic enduring benefit. So arising because of a past event, giving benefit in the future. Yeah. Arising as a result of past event. As a result of past event. In the past we have purchased it. That is the reason it's an asset with us now. If in the past if you purchased it, that might become goods also when the complete utility of that is taken in the present or in the past only. If I buy goods and if I use those goods in the production process, or if I buy some items which are used in the normal operations, they are not called assets, they are called as expenses. Why? They are arising because of past event, but they are no more there in the organization. They will not give future benefit. Their benefit has been exhausted in the past, or their benefit will be exhausted in the present. So only if the benefit will be exhausted in the future, they become asset. Yeah. Giving giving future economic benefit. It should be giving us future economic benefit. That's when it is termed as assets. I hope you got it. And this asset can be tangible, intangible. This definition stands good for everything. You get that? So that's what we mean by impairment of assets. But I am not completely done by the discussion of impairment of assets. So I've just now discussed what do you mean by impairment, what do you mean by asset. I have not discussed the congregated term, like consolidated term, impairment of assets. But before I do that, it is my responsibility to tell you what are the assets that are included. Now whenever I tell assets includes, I don't have enough space in this page, so I'll take you to the next page and then discuss what exactly does the term asset include in the context of Ind AS 36. Asset includes, what does it include? All assets. What does it include? All assets. However, there is exception, except, okay, I'll write except only, need not write exception, except. So when I say except, these assets are not in the purview of Ind AS 16. Okay, not covered under Ind AS 16. Sorry, Ind AS 36. Not covered under Ind AS 36. That is no impairment on these assets. This standard is specifically not applicable to these assets. So what are these assets against which this Ind AS 36 is not applicable? It is those assets which are specifically covered under a separate standard. When they are specifically covered under a separate standard, they will not be covered under this standard. Let me tell you what are those items which are specifically covered under the other standard. Number 1, inventories. Inventories are specifically covered under Ind AS 2, so they are not within the purview of our Ind AS 36. So or to say goods cannot be impaired. You get that? Next one is with respect to if there is any deferred tax assets, like whatever is regulated under Ind AS 12. Yeah, there is a specific standard to take care of tax assets. So if there is a tax asset, you cannot call it impaired. You just need to set it off, like DTA DTL adjustment set off I had told you. So that's just that difference between the current year tax amount that is supposed to be the provision created and the amount actually paid. Remember the discussion that we did with regard to the value of the asset according to accounts, value of the asset according to tax. Yeah, that's it. You can go back and then watch Ind AS 12 video. I have put the links in the description. Done. After this, then if there is any asset which is created to settle employee benefit liability to be settled in the future. Now there is some gratuity, there is some retrenchment benefits that I am supposed to give to my employees. So that I am supposed to give when the employee leaves. So from now I might start keeping some money aside to keep that employee at a later stage. So if I am keeping that some money aside, I might keep it as an investment. Such an asset is not covered under this because it is specifically covered under our Ind AS 19. So employee benefit asset which are specifically covered under Ind AS 19, that is not under the coverage of this specific standard. Next one is biological assets. Yeah, certain biological assets are covered under Ind AS 16, that is PPE. If the biological asset is covered under PPE, then impairment is possible. If a biological asset is not covered under PPE, property, plant and equipment, and it is covered under the agricultural Ind AS, then it cannot be impaired. So biological asset valued at fair value less expenses. If there is any expenses for disposal, that will be deducted. So if you are valuing any asset, any biological asset at fair value less its disposable cost, then that is not covered under the standard which deals with property, plant and equipment. That is covered under the standard which deals with our agriculture. So such a standard is not covered under impairment. If an asset is covered under property, plant and equipment or investment property, it is part of impairment. If an asset is covered not under PPE, not under investment property, and that asset is covered under inventory, asset is covered under employee benefits, or it is covered under income taxes or accounting for taxes, or it is covered under agriculture, it is covered under non-current asset held for sale, it is covered under financial instruments, or it is covered under leases or construction contracts, Ind AS 115, then it is not under our Ind AS 36. Those assets cannot be impaired. That is Ind AS 41, agriculture specifically covers this. Next in hand, if you have any intangible assets which are created in the process of insurance contracts. Intangible assets, insurance contracts, then they are specifically covered under the standard Ind AS 104. See, we might not have Ind AS 104 as a part of our syllabus, but if you have created any asset which is intangible for the purpose of insurance contract, that is reserved for unexpected risk, and then in order to repay that amount on maturity of the contract, we might keep some money aside in investments. So if any such thing is made, and if such asset is intangible asset, then it is not covered under our Ind AS 36. Generally, intangible assets are covered under impairment. Yeah, so when I am telling you assets that are not covered, I will tell you the assets that are covered. All assets are covered except this. But if you want to remember it in simple terms, always remember the assets that are covered under impairment is property, plant and equipment, investment property and intangible assets. General intangible assets. If those intangible assets are intangible assets under insurance contract, then they are not covered under impairment again. Then the next one is non-current asset held for sale. I usually call it NCAHFS. We'll do this little later. This is an IFRS based standard, not international accounting standard based standard. So this is under Ind AS 105. So this is a specific standard which regulates these non-current assets which are not used in operation anymore, which are kept aside for the purpose of sale. So those are again valued at fair value. We'll read the fair value in Ind AS 113. So when there is fair value measurement for this, then there is no concept of impairment. Yeah, later when I start explaining you what exactly is impairment and how do we impair the asset and how do we compare, how do we identify impairment loss, then you will actually understand why are we not going to do, why are we not going to understand these items or cover these items under our, what to say, impairment standard. So the next thing, financial assets covered under Ind AS 109. If there is any financial assets which are covered under financial instruments and other things which are covered under Ind AS 109, that's again not under the purview of our impairment, because again I am trying to tell you once again, those assets are specifically valued at fair value measurement. We'll read it in 113. So they are not covered under 36. When we go for fair value measurement, there is no concept of impairment. Done. Let us go to the last one now, that is contract assets which are covered under Ind AS 115, that is revenue recognition. See, previously under the accounting standard era, we had a separate standard for construction contracts 7, and we had accounting standard 9 which spoke about revenue recognition. Whereas under our Ind AS, what we do is entire revenue recognition, whether it is construction, whether it is service, whether it is goods, everything is covered under Ind AS 115, one of the very lengthy standards that we have in the entire syllabus as well. Very lengthy standard. Yeah, we'll do it at a later stage. In fact, that might be the last but one standard that we'll do in this series. Yeah, somewhere 50, the session number will be around 50 when we do that. Yeah, right now we're in 30s. So again, those contracts or construction assets and everything, there's a specific standard regulating it, Ind AS 115. So it will be not covered under our Ind AS 36. Ouch. Ind AS 36, that is generally covered, that basically covers our property, plant and equipment, investment property and intangible assets. So that's what we mean when we use this word asset in this definition. So we refer to the word impairment. Impairment means weakened or damaged, and asset means a resource entity has control over which and which is arising because of a past event which gives the future enduring economic benefit to the organization. This term asset here, whatever we refer to, it will include all the assets except this, and these are not covered because, why are they not covered? Okay, they have specific standard regulating them. So whenever there is a specific standard regulating them, the general standard will not cover that specific. And more importantly, all of these items are usually gone by, what you say, we go by cost or fair value, cost or market price, whichever is less, or we adjust it against the, what to say, the subsequent liability that will arise because of this, or we'll usually use the fair value measurement for these items. So that is the discussion with respect to assets. When we see this word impairment and asset together now, what do we mean? Impairment of the asset together means that decrease in expected benefit from asset. So what do we mean when we use this word impairment of assets? Impairment of assets means decrease in the expected benefit of the asset. So very important term, try and focus on this, and we need to build a little more on this to take the topic a little ahead. So what do we mean by impairment of assets? It is decrease in the expected benefit from the assets. So I'll take you to a different page, write this word again and then explain it to you. Impairment of assets is something that I called as decrease in expected benefit from asset. Now there are two terms. One, past expectation. Now revised expectation. or re-estimation of what? Of future benefit. Here it is past expectation of future benefit. We are talking about the economic benefit of the asset. So in the past, looking at the asset, I told in the future this asset will fetch me so much money. Now it is an estimate, it's an expectation. This is bound to change with changing things. Now certain things changed in the market or certain things changed within the organization, because of which my expectations from the asset has reduced. My expectation from the assets has reduced. Now you tell me which is the more appropriate word among this now. Should I be going by past expectation of future benefit or revised expectation or re-estimation of the future economic benefit? In the past, I expected this asset to give me this much benefit. Now in the present, I re-estimated it to understand only asset will give me this much benefit. Should I go by this much or this much? So do you understand that we need to go by this revised estimate? Revised estimation is more appropriate. If the past expectation of the asset is more and we need to bring down the asset from that past expectation value to revised expectation, that is nothing but impairment. I will give this technical terms. When I say past expectation of future benefit, that is carrying amount. Carrying amount is nothing but the book value of the asset, whereas the revised expectation is the recoverable amount. Long ago, this carrying amount was the recoverable amount. That is what I expected to recover from the asset, and that is now the carrying amount. It is carried forward from the last year to this year. You get that? Whereas now I have arrived at a new recoverable amount. Now, if when we see these two terms, carrying amount versus recoverable amount, three possible scenarios will arise. First one, happy scenario, carrying amount is equal to recoverable amount. No problem. Our past expectation, our present expectation, both are same. Next scenario, our carrying amount is lesser and our recoverable amount is more. Meaning I am expecting the asset to give more benefit than what I expected. Still good. You get this? So this is happy. What do you say? Profit scenario. Now I will come to a situation where my carrying amount is greater than my recoverable amount. So in the past I expected higher benefits, but in the present the benefits are less. I'll repeat, in the past I expected higher benefits, that is carrying amount, but in the present when I re-estimated, the benefit has actually come down. So I will get lesser than what I actually expected. So this is not a happy moment, this is a sad moment. This is loss. You get that? Now the question is, why exactly do you go for impairment? The answer is here. The answer is simple. What is it? It is conservatism or prudence. So this scenario where our carrying amount is greater than recoverable amount, so this leads to what? Impairment. Impairment is to be done. Impairment is to be done. So what do we know impairment? When carrying amount is greater than recoverable amount, and carrying amount is greater than recoverable amount. Carrying amount, how do we find carrying amount? Carrying amount is basically found as purchase price of that asset, or initial recognition, initial recognition if you have done little differently. From this we deduct accumulated depreciation of this asset from the date of purchase till the present date. Any amount of depreciation accumulated and depreciated deducted, less past impairment loss. In the previous years, if there is any impairment done, deduction in the asset made, so that we do. So when we do this, what we arrive at is what? Our carrying amount. And whenever we refer to this word carrying amount, we mean what? The past expectation. You get that? Now recoverable amount, I will discuss this word little later. Recoverable amount, I will tell you right now that recoverable amount is the re-estimated future economic benefit from asset. Yeah, so the carrying amount is more, the recoverable amount is less. So we have to restate the asset from carrying amount to recoverable amount. So what should we do? We have to restate the asset from carrying amount to recoverable amount. When we are doing this, what are we doing? We are decreasing the value of the asset. Decrease value of asset. When we decrease the value of the asset, it is what? It is loss, resulting in loss. This resulting loss, which is arising because of impairment, is called as impairment loss. So now tell me, how do you find impairment loss? Impairment loss is arising when our carrying amount is greater than recoverable amount, and the difference is basically our impairment loss. So can I write carrying amount minus recoverable amount as my impairment loss? You get this? So whenever the carrying amount is greater than recoverable amount, we go ahead and then impair the asset by bringing it down to this re-estimated future economic. This is the value at which we need to state the asset, not at this past expected value. We need to revise it from past to present. In the changing conditions, we need to change the value of the asset. So that what we're trying to do is our recoverable amount. Now the next question is why are we doing impairment? Why do we do impairment of an asset? The answer is pretty simple. The answer is it is conservatism. Or what we call as prudence is the reason why we restate, because there is a decrease in the value of this and we need to account it. See, vice versa we won't do. Whenever there is a profit, what do? Ignore, chill. If you actually want, then you can actually go ahead and then go for upward revaluation of the asset. Yeah, possibility is there. Okay, you can do revaluation under Ind AS 16 is possible. You can go ahead and then revalue the asset as per Ind AS 16, but you will not do this. You will not go ahead and then record such profit. That's again against our conservatism. However, here we need to record it impairment. You might say, sir, why can't I do under revaluation here? No, there is a separate standard, impairment. Basically cut it off. It is not revaluation. There is decrease in the entire value of the asset. It is not like expected decrease. It is like a very sure shot. You are expecting, there are a lot of indicators, not just internal but external. We do under revaluation of the asset only when we have a feeling. Here it is more than a feeling. It is like sure shot. It is not just the expectation from the entity, it is the reality also in the market. Market also gives lot of indications saying that this asset is gone, guys. You have to revalue it. So don't ever get that thought that whenever the carrying amount is greater, why can't I do undervaluation? No. This is undervaluation is when only the management intends. With no indicators, you can do under revaluation. But whenever you want to do impairment, there are a lot of indicators that I'll discuss in the next question. So now we've discussed what and we've discussed why. We've discussed only two. Next I'll discuss the question when. When I discuss the question when, I'll basically tell you when do we go for impairment. When I answer the question when do we go for impairment, you will be very clear as to why are we doing impairment and not doing undervaluation of the asset. See, we have the option of upward revaluation, downward revaluation. You might be wondering, why don't we do downward revaluation instead of doing impairment? So when I discuss the answer to the question when do we go for impairment, that basically answers your question. So the next question would be when to go for impairment. But I think we've already crossed like 24 minutes. So let's call this an end for this particular session on impairment. So in the next video, the follow-up video, what we'll do is we'll start with the question when do we basically go for impairment. So that's it for this one. So in the present video, we discussed a lot of things. Impairment, the basic meaning, and what are included, what are not included is what they call as scope, and this is what they call as objective. So however, for us it's what, when, why and how. So we're done till here, and why is the answer is conservatism or prudence. So see you all in the next video wherein I'll discuss the answer to the question when. Till then, stay in the game.